What is it going to be? I think it's going to be open conversation. I think it's going to be me and you hanging out, which is fun. I think it's going to be topics that people need to hear about.
Yeah.
And we obviously have a couple topics that we're ready to kind of roll out.
Give a few.
Mental health, CBD, student athletes.
Uh-huh.
I'm excited. We're going to have fun.
Theme song?
Oh, yeah. What was it again? That damn
I think I
show
might have put
tune
a
you
spin
had.
on it.
That show tune. No theme song. We're back here at POSTGRADS at the Plat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm D.Rey.
I'm Avery.
Yes. And today we're talking about relationships.
Wait. You just called yourself D-Rey. I feel like I need a nickname.
I
can't just use
You
my
have
regular.
2 syllables. Daryl.
Some people make it 3. Avery.
Avery. That's so Avery.
Like a lot of professors will say Avery, so it's 3.
Avery.
Anyway, I'll come
it
up.
just sounds extra.
We need to come up with a nickname after this is over.
Okay.
So you can say D-Ray, not Avery. You know.
It just sounds like I'm not gonna say Daryl. Welcome back to
Why?
POSTGRADS at the Plat with Daryl. Like it's just like
Avery.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. It's just,
Like it's the same.
it's
but-
straight. No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted, but I feel like I need a nickname. But
Okay.
Here we go. Bring it back.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
The rewind.
Ooh.
So I ain't got it today. Relationships
Yes.
in athletics, out of athletics, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is because a buddy of mine, I can't believe I actually just said buddy, brought up the idea that he could never date a girl who didn't play a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has to date an athlete. He can't imagine dealing with someone who doesn't have an athletic background. And his reasoning is just the mindset. He said when he started to break it down, he was just like, it's just certain things that you're not gonna understand or think about unless you play the sport.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I think he's right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll understand it, but that doesn't mean they can't sympathize with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think so. My answer, I guess, to the question of like dating an athlete, yeah, I think it's important in terms of. I think it is important because I think, like I said, they understand you on a different level because they went through it themselves, so they can deeply connect to some of the situations. Mm-hmm. But I also don't think that needs to be the case for everyone because I know relationships where people date non-athletes and it's fine, you know, because sometimes the support is almost more because they're not as stuck in their athletic endeavors.
Okay, all right. So this is interesting because you didn't make me realize how layered this is. You have athletes dating athletes who are active athletes. Me and him are ex-athletes, and he's saying he couldn't date someone with an athletic background. And then you got the idea of someone being in athletics dealing with. So I didn't realize how layered it was. Let's start with athletes dating athletes.
Right now, they're athletes.
I think if you're both pro athletes, it even needs to be like y'all are. I couldn't imagine someone who's like on a lesser tier of a pro athlete, and then let's say someone who's in the WNBA like working. Right. Like I can't imagine that.
But then think about being from Philly. Think about Zach Ertz and Julie Ertz. Mm-hmm. They're both high profile athletes.
But they're
and
so
that
damn
becomes
busy.
Right. That becomes a detriment probably to their relationship is the fact that they're not together a lot.
No, it supposedly is great for them.
I don't know about that. Maybe for them.
Come off my sources. But seriously,
and I believe that, and maybe for them it is. But I think about other people who maybe aren't as mature, or as even just like faithful to one another. Yeah. That could be really difficult. Yeah. Because as athletes, you know, we like to have our ego, like you know what I mean. We have that, and like we like to be taken care of sometimes. And I think like when 2 athletes are in the fold, like it's different, you know. Yeah. I think you could go either way. Yeah.
I think you're definitely right. All right, so what about this? What about the people who say they don't want to deal with athletes because of what you just mentioned?
So they're not athletes is what you're saying.
They're saying like they don't want to deal with an athlete.
Yeah.
Like it's been women I've approached. It's just like, oh, you play ball? No. Yeah.
And why? Rightfully so.
Why?
Because knowing people that are athletes, I see there's good and bad people, there's good and bad athletes.
But there's good and bad of everything.
Exactly. So
what if you got one of the good ones?
One of the good ones would be a blessing. But I think at the end of the day, like there are a lot of athletes that are on the end of unfaithful or just really like honing in on their talents, and that's their focus. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. You know, athletes do have to be really selfish. And a lot of high profile athletes talk about that. It's like they need to be selfish to a certain extent because it's their job, it's what they love to do, and it takes a lot of time and effort.
It does.
So people take away from that, even if it is someone that you're intimate with, like they do take away from that time. So I can see when someone would say, you know what, it's just a lot for me. And if they don't come from a place of understanding what an athlete does in terms of like a 9 to 5 or however many hours they are actually focusing on their sport, I think it's good that people are honest. Like, it's not for me.
Yeah.
You know? Because if they can't reciprocate like what the athlete needs or what people need, then why are you in the relationship at all?
But that's on the ego side.
Yeah.
You said the word unfaithful. Like what about that side of it?
I think
Why
there's
do you think that's breeding?
There's a perception for sure that athletes are unfaithful. And I'm speaking of male athletes. I think mostly there's that perception. I've seen both sides of it. I've seen men who are very faithful, who are high profile athletes. And I've seen men that aren't, you know? And again, like I said, there's good people and there's bad people. There's good athletes and there's bad athletes. There's not, you know what I mean? It's not just an athlete thing, but I think because athletes are so glamorized in the media and everything that maybe does happen, like if you hear about a certain athlete doing something or stepping out on his wife or his significant other, like they're polarized, so it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So that just heightens that stereotype, you know? I'm sure you can speak for it too. Like, you know, I'm sure you had teammates that acted one way and acted a different way.
Yeah. Polar opposites.
Yeah.
Polar opposites. No, you're right. You're right. I can see that. Like, that could be the perception. I'm not saying it's a false one. It's just interesting how, like, for some people, like, that is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something that's very interesting.
But some people, which I'm going to ask you this, but I think I already know the answer. Wouldn't you say some people sought you out because you were an athlete?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's why it's a trip. Like, you never really read the fine print on that. Like, there are going to be people that like you because you're an athlete. There are going to be people who will never deal with you in a certain light because you're an athlete.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really hear about that as much. But it's not, you know, I can't say that perception is crazy. So I could imagine that me and you have talked to enough people to figure out what we like talking to more.
Yeah.
So, like, what would you rather deal with from your past experience? Like, what would you rather deal with, an athlete or a non-athlete?
I think the term
At this
athlete.
point.
Yeah, I think the term athlete is what we need to like dial in on first. Are we talking about a current athlete, a professional athlete? Like, what are the circumstances?
All right, give me a scenario. Current athlete,
At what level?
the highest.
Are you asking would I date one?
Yeah. Would you do a guy in the NBA or NFL or NHL or
I would not
MLS?
seek one out. I would not seek a professional athlete out.
Okay.
But if I knew somebody and I liked them for them and they were a professional athlete, that's not a deal breaker for me where I'm at.
Okay.
But I would not in any way be like looking online for an athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think that's something people do, and that's not like I don't have any judgment towards that because some people just like to date athletes, and like that's okay. We all have our preferences, you know. But again, it all depends, you know. And I think I know a lot of athletes now that like have turned professional, and because I knew them beforehand, that's very different because I don't see them as a professional athlete. But I think it would be hard for me right now to be like, oh, they're a professional athlete and I know that, and then try and start a relationship.
So what would
Because
be
a
like
lot comes with it.
what would be like the deal breaker? What would be the thing like, all right, you know what? This is a red flag. I'm out.
I think respect is huge in any relationship. So like, I'm not expecting, knowing an athlete's schedule and knowing what they put themselves through, you know, physically and mentally, you can't expect someone's time all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for anyone. But I think there's a level of respect that is needed in a relationship of mine in the future. And that is, you know, giving somebody your undivided attention when you are together, you know, and not making them question it. I think a lot of people stay in relationships when like their significant other is making them question if they really like them. Like if you have to question if someone likes and cares about you, probably shouldn't be in the relationship. So for me, that's a deal breaker. I need the respect, and I need to not, you know, be asking questions. Sometimes we tend to go to the worst case scenario, and I don't want to have to get there. I want to know.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you? It's so
like,
different for guys and girls
like,
too.
Like if my girl was like in the WNBA or you know, she played like soccer, world class soccer, or I think part of me would just be like very interested in like the dynamic, like damn, like what would that be like from an experience standpoint, but also I mean, like me and you were very busy too. Like we're
Yeah.
starting our, we're fresh out athletes, so we're starting a new life, so we're very busy. Dealing with someone who has an athletic background or is in athletics right now, like it will low key, it will kind of line up. Like you don't have, like you said, you don't have time for certain things. You travel a lot, but I think, I could do it.
Yeah.
I could definitely do
Well,
it.
to what you said, like, and there's a point in time which I don't think you experience this in the same way I do, and maybe you can argue with me on this, but like being in media and wanting to go into that field at one point,
Yeah.
I had to be very cognizant of how I acted around athletes, whether I was interviewing them or whether I just knew they were an athlete. Because a lot of the times in media, you are perceived as like, oh, she's wanting to start a relationship, or she wants to get close with them, get close with the athletes.
Yeah.
Which for me wasn't the case, but you never want people to even think it, right? You want to make sure you have that line drawn.
Yeah. No, and that's a very fine line to be on.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it what it is. Some brothers,
Oh boy.
some brothers
Off
will
script.
think, no. I'm just,
Okay.
I'm giving you game here. I'm giving
Yeah.
you game here. You got some dudes who they're convinced that every woman that looks at them loves them. It just is what it is. You could call it ego, you could call it narcissism, you can call it just their personality, but some dudes...
They'll probably
like,
call it confidence.
Exactly. They'll probably have another word for it, but like
Yeah.
some dudes will like, they just believe that. So it's like, kind of, I'm not saying like, woe is anybody, but like it's a shame because like a lot of people who approach them in that light are already at a disadvantage because you're dealing with somebody who, like, quite frankly, to me, it's like it's a bit of an egomaniac. Like you can't think that everybody is like, oh my God, like my lucky stars aligned so I can get with such and such. Like that's, I mean, like that's a bit extreme, but y'all at a disadvantage because if anything, the people who have those type of egos are going to be athletes and entertainers.
Right.
So like, I don't think that women should have to be like overly on guard. But it is something to be, like you said, cognizant of, because it's like they could completely think that you trying to go back after the interview. It's like, oh no, I was just showing that we had chemistry to keep this damn camera rolling. You know what I mean?
I don't need your name or your number.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know your number's on the back of your jersey. You know how to let your boy. Yeah, exactly. That's all you need. So I don't think it's something that women should have to be like on their toes about constantly, but it is something to be cognizant of. And let's be honest, it does happen. Like you hear about plenty of relationships where people work on the same shows together. You know what I mean?
And that's okay, like a lot of like statistics show that you end up like having relationships or marrying people that you're in close vicinity with, work with, co-workers, and technically they are your co-workers. They're the reason they're paying your bills. That interview is paying your bills.
Weird.
It is weird. But then I think too, like, I don't know, I just feel like a lot of it is what you bring to the table. In any relationship, it's what you bring to the table.
Especially when you're dealing with people who, I mean, let's call it what it is. If you're an athlete, you have a certain independence about you.
Yeah.
Especially if you've made it to the professional level,
Yeah.
you are very aware of how much you control. Like, because we know like, at every level it goes up, at every level a few more drop off. So it's like, if you've made it to, the world-class soccer, MLS for guys, and or if you've made it to the NBA or WNBA, like you're very aware of, no, I got here because I got help here or there, but like I put in a hell of a lot of work to get to this point.
Your
so,
ambition is completely different.
Exactly. So dealing with somebody who doesn't have that, like I'll speak to this, and I hope I don't want to come off like misogynistic or anything like that, but like I will speak to this first and foremost. Like you telling me you don't. What? You know what I mean? Some guys, that's what they want. They want that through and through, but it's just like, even coming from a sports background, it's like the idea that you ain't trying to get up and get yours, like that's scary.
Yeah.
Because then you gotta think about, like, we're in a stage where we're having kids. Like, I don't want my kid to have that in them.
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, exactly. And I think that's another thing too, probably people think about kids when they're, what do I want my kid? Do I want my kid to be athletic, or do I want my kid not to be athletic? And things happen regardless. Two pro athletes could have children and there's no athletic ability. And honestly, is that all that matters? Not at all. And like, at the end of the day, you love your kids no matter what, and you should, you know? But again, like you said, like it is about time. Like if you reach, I'm gonna say if you reach the college level, Division I college level, you've put in over 10,000 hours of work into one single thing. And that just, when you're a professional, then it like triples, doubles, because now you're getting paid for it. So now you're really putting in time without distractions of school and other people. You know what I mean? Like everything is kind of taken away, and it's just all right. Now it's just one thing.
That's your job.
But like I said, bringing it back, it's what you bring to the table. So throughout my life, like I'm always going to be an athlete, and I will define myself as an athlete because I play Division I sport, and that's what I bring to the table in one way. Whether that's in the conversations that we have, I can say, oh, as an athlete, or whether that's just like dealing with different people, what I've learned as an athlete, like dealing with injury, like all those different things. That's a part of what I bring to the table. So I respect that in someone else as well. If they're an athlete, like they bring that to the table. But that's not to say that someone who's a doctor doesn't bring something to the table as much as an athlete. You know, they bring their own set of skills.
Yeah, no, it's not. And it's not, I'm not saying it excludes anybody. I mean, it's kind of the perfect time. You know, in Kobe's passing, you hear a lot more about his mindset more than his athletic accomplishments.
Right.
That's what made him so universal, so easy to, you know, spread his message out. So it's like that mindset, there are people who never suited up for anything, but they could crush the hell out of some numbers with a Mamba mentality. You know what I mean? Like, that's applicable across the board. So when I say get up and get yours, I don't mean like, oh, you have to be an athlete. And I say get up and get yours, I mean go to the gym, but it's like some type of hustle about you.
Yes.
That athletics usually, like, whether you like it or not, teaches you. You know what I mean? That's what I mean when I say get up and get it. But you're right, like, it is about what you bring to the table. Because if you don't have that, that's what I talk about. Like when I say like, all right, I don't want my kids to not have that, like the idea of like my kids not being ambitious. It's like, no, I don't. Like that, I love you. I love you all the same, but it's like, I don't, no, I would rather you know what I mean, have that.
I think too, it's like you think of survival of the fittest, which is just such an old concept, but so true.
It's fundamental.
And also just like resentment. Like I think resentment breeds really deep in relationships. So like, when I say resentment, I mean this. If you're in a relationship with somebody for years and you're always like up first, you're always out of bed first, you're always taking initiative on everything, you start to resent the other person. And I think as an athlete, and in a lot of like high level positions in general, like if you get to a CEO level of something, like you had to be up early, you had to be on your grind.
Competed.
Right.
You
had to have that internal competition. And I think resentment comes in relationships when your partner isn't bringing the same energy to every day that you are. You know, and from my experience,
it's like a teammate.
Yeah, exactly. And from my experience, you're my teammate. So what are you doing? What are you doing so that we can reach our desired goal together? Whether that's a happy relationship or healthy kids or healthy whatever it is, like you got to bring it because I'm bringing it. And I think as athletes, we kind of have that inner mentality. Like I'm bringing it. Like you don't have to. You don't have to worry about me.
You ain't got to jumpstart me.
I don't know if I'm gonna be a professional athlete. I don't know if I'm gonna be a millionaire. I don't know what I'm gonna be. But I know that my athletic background brought me to like the mentality of I'm gonna get whatever I want to get. You know.
Kind of scared me on that last part. You got intense on that last. I'm gonna get whatever. By any means.
Because that's right.
No.
Ingrained in us.
Exactly,
Like, it really is.
You have to have that mentality. Like I said, that's what it's really about. It's not the athlete. Oh, or you're gonna stay in shape for X amount of years, and you're gonna work out, and you know how to do proper dips. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about that. It's about it's do you have the ability to compete? And not just compete, you know, when things are going good, because that's the other thing that athletes teaches you. You know, athletics teaches you is resiliency. You know, like, do you have the ability to like get knocked down and keep getting up, keep getting up, and keep getting up? Like that competitiveness is what it comes down to.
Do you?
Go ahead. No,
do you think there's a? I'm gonna flip it a little bit. Do you think there's an external factor in that, like, people judge people on who they date? So it's like, oh, if you're dating an athlete, oh, you're dating that NBA player, that's really cool. Versus like, oh yeah, I'm dating somebody that works in, you know, finance at this job. Do you think there's that factor, especially in a world of social media? Dating an athlete is a cool thing to do.
I guess. I think, I mean, let's be honest, people have a natural hierarchy in their mind, and where we hold athletes, especially in American society, is the highest. Like there are some people who hold athletes in higher. There are some people who hold athletes in higher regard than the President of the United States.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's a pretty high up thing to be an athlete on that stage. But like, I'm pretty sure we know some people who date athletes, and we know that athlete, and they're like the worst person ever. Like they're not exactly that cool. And then, like you said, it could be somebody with a job in Staples, but it's like, yo, they're the best. Like I love hanging out with them. I don't think that. I'll say it firsthand. I know that athletics, especially at the highest level, doesn't afford you a personality.
No.
It doesn't afford you being a nice person. Like
Not at all.
that does not come with
If anything, I think it makes it more difficult to be all of those things.
Yeah.
I do. I feel like if you, because we're on this, sorry.
Sorry.
Well, no. The meme, we'll just place it right here. No, but like I think, again, we're back at Zach Ertz. Like, Zach Ertz having the platform that he has,
Yeah.
right? And everyone knows him in Philadelphia and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of his time is spent giving to fans and being this face of things. And
Yeah.
that can be really exhausting,
Yes.
you know? And you always have to kind of be this person as an
You
athlete.
gotta always have a smile on.
Right. So I think it is harder to be kind as an athlete sometimes because people expect it from you all the time.
Yeah.
Like if you're kind, I need that from you every day.
Yeah.
If you're an asshole, you can be an asshole, but then I'm going to get that every day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
You know what I mean?
expecting
You
an
kind of
asshole.
want that consistency.
Yeah.
So
and
I
it's
think-
like, what if you're having an off day?
Right.
And it's like, no, you're an athlete. You don't have off
It's
days.
like, okay, I guess.
Yeah,
you
it's like
know?
having an off game. It's like, no, what is your problem?
Right.
Why didn't you do? Yeah, I get it. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's definitely not something to cry about. At the end of the day,
No.
it's just like, as an athlete, you know, that's what you signed up for.
Right.
Especially
And you should
in
love doing it.
yeah.
I hope you love doing
Yeah.
it if you're at that level,
Yeah.
you know?
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
Like everybody does PR. It's called social media. So
Right.
it's like, you have to have that.
Yeah.
You know, the days of, I'm an athlete, I duck off. Like Kawhi's the last one. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, he's the last one.
Yeah.
Like the
There's
days
definitely
of,
more pressure now.
Exactly. It's like you have to have that. It's a part. You're a brand.
Right.
Completely as an athlete nowadays.
Well, same thing. Like, because of that,
Mm-hmm.
your relationship is now your brand. So you got to spin that to work for you.
I never thought about that.
Whether you're dating another athlete,
Yeah.
whether you're dating you're a female and you're dating a female who's also an athlete. Like
Yeah.
you think of Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird. Like now it becomes a part of your brand.
Yeah.
And we still see those people that hide their relationships, whether it is same-sex relationships or not. You know what I mean? They're not posting them. They're not whatever because maybe they don't see it as part of their brand.
Yeah. It's like it's not a part of. I don't know. I think I can speak
Yeah.
for the idea of privacy. I think for some relationships it's probably best.
Yes.
But at the same time, in some relationships, it could very well be understood like, oh no, for this image or that image. Like we talk about it like, I'm pretty sure there are people, personalities on ESPN, that I hold near and dear, and that are in relationships. You know what I mean? Like they're in relationships. Like let's call it what it is. Is like, but a part of their job is like to appeal as this, you know, like untouchable, you know,
Yes.
thing. But like they're in like full-fledged. Like you see, like, you know, so many personalities. Like you'll see my events. It's like they have rings on. It's like, oh, I never thought of it. I never see your head. I don't know. You're floating
Right.
head on TV. You know what I mean? But it's like they very much have a relationship. But it's like a part of your brand is being this thing that's kind of out of reach. And in the same sense, you know, you could have the ultimate mom or the ultimate dad, and it's like a part of your brand is the show very much so. Like one of my favorite, my man Craig Melvin on the Good Morning show, Good Morning America show. Like a huge part of his brand is like them little curly head kids.
Right.
You know what I
He
mean?
took on the family brand,
exactly. His
yes.
beautiful wife, like, but like them having a picture all together. Steph Curry, another example.
Yes.
Sorry, I mentioned all the light skins. LeBron James. LeBron James.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Serena, like they, you know, part of their brand is showing that because now you appeal to parents.
Right.
You know, somebody might not ever watch you play in an athletic background, but I'm pretty sure there's moms and dads all
Yeah.
over that know who LeBron is as a parent.
Right.
And like you said, it's a part of your brand.
Yeah, you take it on. You
Exactly.
said Serena, which is interesting to me because she married a white man.
Yeah, but that's
And a non-athletic. I mean, he may be athletic. He may be great at tennis. I don't know. But he's not a professional athlete.
yeah.
And I'm sure people saw that and were like, Serena,
Yeah.
like you're Serena Williams. You don't want to
Exactly.
marry somebody who's, and no one's really her level of
Exactly.
athleticism. I think
was
anyone under her,
outside of
no
her,
male,
outside
maybe
of
LeBron, but
exactly,
right,
exactly.
is
Outside of her, no.
her level.
Yeah,
But like, even that, I think it was interesting when people saw it. Like, oh, like that's her man, and
Yeah.
she's happy, and she's using it. I think
Hold
now
up.
as a part of her
Repeat
brand.
game.
But
How many people was like, yes, you got away from X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and such, and you went and got yourself a white boy.
Right.
Like there was some people who
No.
was really on that. Like,
I agree.
You know, it's just.
Which I think part of that is because she embraced it.
yeah,
She
you
did it.
have to.
Yeah, she did. She loved him for who it is, and like it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But I think athletes struggle with like what parts of themselves do they keep to themselves,
Yeah.
and what part do they place in their brand and start to embrace.
Yeah.
Now, when people get married, I think it's a little bit of a different situation
Yeah.
because like you want to celebrate your marriage, as you should as a human being. You should want to celebrate being with somebody and like making them your life partner. You know,
not the wedding.
No, I agree. Don't need to videotape the wedding and do.
I'm eloping.
No.
It's over. I'm just coming with a ring.
Okay, you have your own set of plans, but no, and that's what I'm saying. It should be your choice. And I think when you bring people as an athlete into your relationships, it's no longer your choice.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck in, oh, well, we broke up, but like, do I tell people? Do I delete all the pictures? Do I tell my brand people like, oh yeah, now I'm not? Can you imagine if Steph and Aisha were stop being married? Right, all right, don't come for her cookie show. That will stay on air, all right?
No, I'm saying with them, like them too. I'm not, oh my God, no, please, it's 2020, I'm getting in trouble with somebody. No, what I'm saying is like the idea of them doing something together is donezo. Same thing for him, it's just, that's so awkward. And it's so weird that like, that's the checklist. Like after you break up with someone, it's like, all right, the relationship is over.
Right.
One of the first things you have to think about is, how is this gonna look?
Yeah.
And it's like you said, like deleting pictures. Do I keep them? Like, do I not say anything? Do
I unfollow their family members? Social media has made it. Yeah, it really is. And that's why we don't post a single thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Like you gotta
we don't do that.
Exactly. Because like
I could be married and they don't even know.
And you got like a million rings on, so you couldn't be. But like that ass, like it really is a situation where it's just like, yo, I really have to do PR for something so personal, like immediately.
Yeah.
It's because we all seen the post of like, you like, this is first relationship? I don't know. It's like 8 in a row without that person. I don't know. Like, look for the comment. You know
When's the last time they were together? 2017?
Exactly.
And it is. And I think it's hard. Like, I can imagine if I was dating an athlete now, so I'm just going to speak from my perspective. If I was dating a professional athlete and they didn't want to post me, we would have to have a conversation about why. It wouldn't, you know what I mean? And if it is that, oh, this is like, I don't do that, I'm very private, got it. But I think people start to understand when it's, no, this person is just not wanting to put you out there. They don't want people to know they're in a relationship. That's different than wanting to keep something sacred.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, I think the proof is like, are they entertaining anything else?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it can't be both. Like, all right, if it's private, it's just, you're someone that like nobody really knows and it's just shut down and that's that. But for it to be like, oh no, I'm not gonna talk about relationship, but I'm all for,
well, you're welcoming other people to judge your intimate relationship when no one, not even your best friends, know how that relationship is when it's just you two, so then you put it out there with athletes who have millions of followers. They're just welcoming judgment into relationships which are already hard to have today, So I think like that's honestly a big part of it. Like, do you want to, if you're not an athlete and you're dating an athlete, do you want to open yourself up to the athlete world, which is a lot of judgment, which is a lot of trolling and negative comments and, oh, you look this way and oh, that, you know what I mean? Or, oh, why aren't you dating so-and-so instead of like you know? So I think it's really individual. Every person kind of has their own guidelines and like barriers to what they're willing to accept. But yeah, I don't think it's a yes or no for many people. And if it is, I'd be interested to know like why. Like, I will definitely never date an athlete, or I definitely will. I'd be interested to, have that conversation. Because if you're holding out for a professional athlete for your whole life, like, time is ticking, like, and that's,
hey man, there's some jersey chasers out there on both sides.
Don't give them names now.
I ain't about to say nobody. You know who you are, but I'm just saying, like, there's some
people turn the video, turning it off right now.
This is enough. Gotta go to bed. Right. But no, like, no, exactly. It's like, seriously, like, there's some people out there. And more power to you. That's what you're into. For me, I feel like I said, when they said the whole like, I could never, like, it was like, no, like, he meant it. He meant that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could never, like, it was almost like, it was unfathomable. And it's just like, it made me think like, well, damn, like, do I naturally, kind of weed out people who don't have some type of athletic background?
Right.
And I think it's more
like if you're a junior in high school and you played, but senior in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you never know.
did you make varsity?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
how many minutes? You gotta show me the stats.
I don't want to do that, but at the same time, it's just, I think it's that mindset. Can you compete? Can you, set goals and crush them? Can you stay resilient when hard times? I think that's really what he was getting at. It's not so much, he might have been, like, he might have completely meant, like, no. I mean, like, in an athletic background, like, you better have a scholarship. You know what I mean? Like, he might have meant like that, but I think for a lot of people, it comes down to what's going on up here,
right?
You know, through life. Because as an athlete, like you said it yourself, you're always going to identify as an athlete.
Right.
And as an athlete, you just attack certain things in life a different way because you immediately compare it to, you have a different idea of a process and a work ethic about you that's just
what
like
it takes.
Exactly. I'm not saying people don't have it, because Lord knows there's some athletes who get out of athletics and they can't apply that to. I'm not saying like,
because there's a discipline, there was a responsibility there. Like someone told you to be up at this time and be at practice and whatever. And you're right, when sometimes that's taken away, they fold. Yeah. You know? So like you said, I think we should reiterate like the fact that it's not just an athlete thing. Ambition is in no way just an athlete thing, but I think you're more willing to you're more open to find it in, athletes. Yeah. So we gotta find our athlete. Put it out on Craigslist or something. Just kidding.
Put up the bat signal.
Right.
All right. Well, you do the outro.
What'd you?
Corduroy shorty.
All right.
I love it. Here we go.
How is this the outro and you just call me Corduroy shorty? What did you just say?
Corduroy shorty.
I don't even know if they can see my corduroys in the video. Now I'm like... Anyway. We want to say to our fans that are watching this, Happy Valentine's Day from Daryl and I, D.Rey and Avery, coming up with a nickname soon. Yeah, I'm going to feel it out. Maybe I'll ask my Valentine, for a nickname. Anyway, we hope that everyone has a great Valentine's Day. Stay safe. Whether it's with an athlete or not, we hope you have a nice dinner, some chocolates, flowers, whatever floats your boat.
I like that.
Yeah. And happy Friday.
Yeah. I love it.